Okay, welcome everybody to the Real Talk Podcast, episode number 5. Okay, this is where we bring you inspiring, motivating and empowering content to take your life to the next level. And it brings me great pleasure to bring Batman and Robin and Batman. I'm trying to think of any other superheroes that come into. That's it. Okay, the Cape Crusaders themselves. Okay, Mr. Earle and Bev Lynch. All right, and we're going to be talking about the power of coaching and why you should have a coach and counseling and what's the difference between the two. And the reason I wanted to do this is that it's becoming very vogue, it feels like, to have a coach, a life coach, a business coach. But I'm also hearing so many people talk about having counseling or requesting for counseling. And, you know, we're seeing alternative methods of medicine instead of people having, you know, medical in terms of tablets and things like that. Counseling seems to be the real vogue thing to do and stuff like that. So I really wanted to dig in today at what the difference is between the two. Okay, why and when should I get a coach? I've got a business coach. When should you get a coach? When should you get a counselor and things like that? So I thought no better guest to bring on to the podcast than you two beautiful people. So welcome. Don't they? If you could see them, I know if you're looking on podcasts, you may not be able to see them, but I'm telling you now, they look gorgeous. They just come back from Germany. You had a great time, didn't you?
We had a wonderful time.
Yeah, that's it. Flew back when?
Last night.
Last night. Yeah. Feeling tired or feeling fresh?
I'm feeling fresh.
I'm feeling, quite refreshed.
Okay, so this is going to be a very good podcast. Okay, here we go. Okay, so to tell us a little bit about yourselves, so who would like to go first? Earle or
ladies first.
Ladies first.
Oh, no, I'll let you go first.
Oh, look, this is the true love is in the air. So I love that. Okay, this may be a domestic. We may even be talking on the podcast how you deal with marital issues. Okay, this may lead into one. Okay, when do you need a coach for marriage or when do you need a counsellor? Okay, that might be a great topic. So, okay, let's start with ladies first. So, Bev, tell us a little bit about yourself. You know, in terms of what you do, how do you get into counselling and things like that. So, what made you want to become a counsellor?
I got into counselling really because I just felt if there was anything that I could do to help anyone. Yeah. I've been through lots of ups and downs in different points of my life. And all the time wanting to be able to turn to someone to be able to talk to, just to get, sometimes it's not even to get a fix, but just to bounce off.
Oh, okay. You're going to find this with the way we lead these podcasts. I like to interject when I think there's a real good topic.
That's
something
right.
that you just said, which I think is very key, because if you think of a coach or a counsellor, you think they're perfect. Well, that's the impression I think a lot of people, you know, you think, oh, you're a coach or you must have everything perfect. But something you just said, I've been through ups and downs. So just because you're a coach or a counsellor,
right,
it doesn't mean that your life is perfect.
That's right.
No. Is that would you say that's
absolutely true?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So do you think it actually makes you better that you've actually gone through stuff? Does that make, because you can more either relate or understand or have more empathy? I don't know. You guys tell me. Does that actually help?
Depends on what you mean when you say better.
Yeah, does experience help that you've gone through something rather than just having knowledge from a book or a course, but you've actually walked through it? Does that help?
Yeah, I think it does help with the experience and being able to empathise with someone else.
Yeah.
Just to get a good idea of what they're going through. Okay. You can feel, I do understand where you're coming from with that or this.
Okay, so there we are. So we're starting off. You're not perfect.
No, certainly not perfect.
Already, I feel relatable. That's good. I can relate with that because I'm not perfect too. Okay, so you got it because you thought there was something missing.
Just to build on Bev's point there's 3 key stages that kind of give us a distinction between what we're talking about here as well. Is the one is, I'm going to use some words, ethos, which is all about the ethics.
Yeah.
There's logos, which is all about the emotional connection. Do I understand? Do I see where you're coming from? And if I've got experience of being down in the dumps and feeling broken, then that can clearly help the counseling element of the job. And then the last part is the logos, the word, the data, the stats, the facts, the figures, the charts, the graphs, the numbers. If you've got that kind of insight, then you can present, and it's a lot harder and it's more scientific. So I guess what Bev and I do, we work somewhere between the pathos, the feeling, the emotion, which is more Bev's side, and I work more potentially with the logos. Look, it makes sense to do this and do it now. Take action on these points, because the world, the data, the numbers, the stats, the facts, the figures, the charts, the graphs, the numbers suggest this is the way forward. So it's a little bit different.
And on the other hand, even though the stats and the facts and the figures all point towards this is how you should be doing it, if you're not there yet, emotionally, then it ain't.
We're starting to break down some stuff. I'm starting to feel this. I'm loving this. Okay.
And just to give one last overview, when we look at Bev's business as a counsellor, she really picks people up when they're broken. When there's a need to have a conscious recognition of where you are now and how you get to the next level. So we have this little wordplay inside our businesses where Bev picks the people up when they're broken, and I pick them up and I then develop them so they can be bigger, better, bolder somewhere else.
Okay.
So it's the development that takes place with what I do in facilitation and helping people develop, and Bev is really counselling and picking up people when they're broken and somewhat damaged.
That's a really good point, and we'll definitely come back to that. So that's almost like the differentiation between, don't worry there if you're hearing a little bit of vibration there, we have a call coming through probably from a client.
Possibly.
More than happy for you to answer that if you want to do a live session right here on air.
Not right now.
Oh, okay, all right. Okay, that's all right. Man, I was going to give you guys a free coaching session now. She usually charges £1,000 an hour. We'll talk about prices later. Okay, so we're going to go back to obviously when you should have a coach, because it sounds like what you're saying when you have a counsellor is when you're broken, you're trying to find yourself first before you feel then ready enough to be empowered to go to the next level. Is that right?
I think so. I think so. I mean, the biggest step for anybody who's going to go through any kind of counselling is the recognition that I need help.
Right.
If you're not prepared to say I need help, then the whole process falls apart.
Is that for both counselling and coaching?
Coaching, slightly different in coaching, because usually you're out there performing. Even if you're an athlete, you're out there performing, and a good coach will spot what you're doing and they'll point out, if you made a few minor modifications, we could get you to a better place. Do you want to take that leap, yes or no?
Right.
Whereas counselling is a bit more internal. It's a bit more private. It's a bit more... You won't necessarily know that somebody is in need of help when they are in need of counselling, because it's internal. But the coaching is more external. It's more actionable. You can see the behavioural traits, and you can see where somebody has potential, but is maybe not expressing that potential to its fullest and maximum capacity. So a good coach will spot that. You know, I was walking through a shopping mall in America with my son in Atlanta in January.
You buy me anything?
You
didn't? Okay, we can move on.
The whole trip was really there to buy him clothes, because he's 6'5" and I can't get proper clothes for him. And we were walking through the mall, and a coach literally stopped him in the mall and said, "Son, how old are you?" And he said 18. He said, "Oh my goodness, if you were a year younger, I would put you in my basketball scholarship."
Wow.
Well, first of all, who told him he was a basketball player? Just the way he moved, the way he looked, the coach was able to spot this is clearly an athlete who could play basketball. Right. Coaches will do that.
Oh, okay, so
Connor
they can
didn't have to say a word. Yeah, they can identify straight away.
Changes.
Yeah, they can identify where the potential is and how they can help you. And they will have individual programs to support people along the journeys, as will counsellors, but you have to be proactive and basically ask for the intervention or ask for the help in the first place.
The learn actually doesn't actually come until you realise, you know what, I need help.
Right.
I need help here. And it's just... sometimes we bury it. We bury it and we think, no, I'm okay because so-and-so's doing okay, and I should be feeling okay. I should be doing this.
Do you think that's something that's because of our society now? Where we all have to play that image that I'm good. I'm good. But deep down, I'm not so good.
And it's being brave enough to say, you know what, hands up, I'm not coping with this.
Oh, okay.
I'm not doing as well as I thought I might. Not based on what your measure is for me or your measure is for me, but what my measure is for me. You are the expert on you.
Perfect. I love that. Say that line again.
You are the expert on you.
I think that's now going to be your hashtag. That's it. I don't know what the hashtag is for your business. I think that should be your hashtag for your business.
You are the
there.
expert on you. I like it.
Right, so let's talk about the counselling for a moment. So, and we'll jump back into Earle and obviously his background. When people are coming to you, what type of things are they coming to you for? Is it like relationships? Is it, so when do people come, because sometimes counselling, it feels like AA. Do you know what I mean? Like, I got a drinking problem, I go and see a counsellor or something like that. And I think that's probably the most high profile type of counselling that I could think of. But what kind of things would people come to see you for? So it's not just alcohol, I'm assuming, and things like that.
Well, I don't think I've had not that many alcoholics as you might.
Oh, okay. Oh, no, there we are. That's dispelled everything I thought about who's having counselling. That's
it's not all about drugs and alcohol abuse or anything like that. Sometimes it's something as simple as confidence.
Right. Oh, okay.
Sometimes it's a work-related issue. Sometimes it's a couple relationship issue. Sometimes it's I really don't know what to do with my children. Sometimes it's someone coming in and saying, I don't know who I am anymore. Maybe I had children when I was very young, and now I've just lost
sense of who I am and things like that.
And they need to find who they are. They need to remember. Sometimes if it's a couple, it's when was the last time you actually had a laugh with each other? Yeah.
So you don't always necessarily have to be a crisis point then, because I think if I this is my opinion here, so I'm not talking on behalf of the people that are listening to this, but you think counselling, you think you're incredibly broken, okay, and so now I need a counsellor. This is the point where the doctor said, oh my gosh, I'm going to refer you. Type of snot. But it sounds like there's almost a little bit of early intervention.
Absolutely.
Before you get to crisis point, that you should be looking at counselling. Because I think, tell me if you think I'm wrong, is there a little bit of stigma? Like if I say a coach, it's like performance coach. Hi, I'm Usain Bolt and I've got a coach, or I'm a business leader. But if you say counsellor, I'm going to counselling. There's like a natural stigma that your life's in ruin.
That's right.
Depending on where in the world you are.
Okay. Break that down, brother.
So if you go to the United States, counselling. Fine.
Everybody's having counselling.
Yeah. I mean, you may remember on TV there was a program, My Wife and Kids. And anytime Mr. Kyle and Mrs. Kyle had a disagreement, we got to get an appointment to go and see Dr. Boucher or whoever it was. And they would go off to counselling, right? And it was a perfectly normal, natural thing to do, as it is in the States. There's less of a stigma associated with going to your counsellor in the States as over here, because you're right. People seem to view counselling as there's obviously something wrong, damaged, broken, and therefore you are not 100% fit for purpose, and therefore you're having counselling, and therefore something's wrong with you. Well, the stigma shouldn't be there, really. It really shouldn't, and we've just got to mature and get up and grow up in order to get around that.
Because I suppose more and more people who are requiring this help are not, because of the stigma. So we want to dispel that, actually. If you're looking to be a high performer.
But sometimes people will come and they'll be in here and they'll say, I've never done anything like this before. And it makes you think, like, what? What do you expect we're going to be doing?
Am I going to lie down? Do you want me to lie down? That's the impression you get. I'm not saying that, sit down, get on the couch, and there's a couch here. All right, but
we have a couch here, and I wanted the environment for people to feel as if they're coming into the living room and relaxing and having a coffee and talking to some, rather than this sterile environment where you felt as if, oh, you know, they're going to come wrap me up in a white coat or something. I didn't want that kind of sterile kind of feel to it, because at the end of the day, that's not what it's meant to be about. That's the wrong impression. It's the wrong impression. So, but there is still a stigma attached.
Yeah. And
people will be embarrassed to think, oh, I'm having counselling. The more modern people will say, I've had to have counselling over this.
Yeah. Like a badge of honour.
Yeah.
Bad counselling.
I'm going to see my counsellor. You know, you can't see the same counsellor as me, you know, that's my counsellor.
Fantastic. Is that what you got now? You got your buddies with your little sticker on.
Yeah,
that's my counsellor.
That's my counsellor. Yeah. But there's still a stigma attached with when people are really broken.
Yeah.
That's when they really need the support and the help, and that's sometimes when I feel that they may go to a coach, and when they've gone to the coach, it's counselling they actually
right. And do you find that, because obviously you two are, as you said, a married couple, and you know your offices are next to each other, do you tend to cross refer and actually say, I think you may be better to sit with a coach, or you may be better?
Now this is where it gets a little sticky. Yeah, we have done it before.
Yeah.
But it has to be really on the recommendation of the person who's actually in the session.
Right.
So sometimes, I mean, and this is where it gets really muddy. I can be in a training session or running a course or a conference, and something I say resonates with a member of the audience.
Yeah.
And what typically happens is you go off to lunch or you go off to a coffee break, and somebody goes, oh, Earle, can I speak to you for a moment?
Yeah.
You mentioned something about, you know, when you're in a relationship and, you know, if a person's in quadrant 3, they tend to say yes to things for the office and then they neglect their home life. That might be the topic.
Right.
That's happened to me. Oh, can you advise me?
Yeah.
Now, this is where it starts to get a bit muddy, because we're now moving from a conference or a training course and giving personal advice rather than just the professional advice which I've been paid for as a facilitator.
Yeah.
And this is that grey area. And we've had lots of conversations, not just me and Bev, but I remember a long conversation I had with an old friend of mine, Peter Gardoni. And he said, Earle, on the one hand, you've got the people who work in mental asylums.
Yeah.
Could you see a facilitator, which is the job you're doing, coaching people or talking to people who are based in a mental asylum? And I said, clearly, well, no.
Not.
Yeah, no.
100%.
And he says, well, okay, you understand that distinction. He says, well, counseling is not too far removed from that distinction.
Yeah.
Because, you know, there's a professional distance that you have to put in place as a facilitator with yourself going into counseling, because you're now delving into the psyche and to the more personal aspects of a person's life.
Yeah.
You're a developer of people. That's what I am, a developer of people.
The coach is a developer of
people.
Yeah.
So we are more based on helping the person take action to take them to the next level.
Right. Okay, so some real good points that you guys brought. So if I was classifying the two areas and just, using one word, I would say counseling is almost like bringing a person to a place of revelation, and then a coach brings them to a place of progression.
And destination, hopefully.
And destination, I love that.
Right.
So what would you say are the key benefits then? So let's start with you, Earle. What are the key benefits a coach brings? What are the real key benefits that you feel a coach brings?
So I think that one of the key benefits is that a good coach will find where you are, either by you explaining to them or by great observation. They'll see where you are now, and they'll have a distinct plan of action, a strategy to get you to a higher level.
Right.
Either a higher level of performance or a higher level of output, high level of productivity. So, I mean, I've got a situation right now, actually, where there's a person that I'm coaching, and they're good at what they do already.
Yeah.
They're very good. They get some great results. But they've come to a point where they acknowledge they need to go further.
Yeah.
And they want to know, well, how do I unlock that untapped potential that I have, that they have?
And I think you hit a key point there, because I think the problem is sometimes we know inside
That's
ourselves
right.
there's more.
Yes.
But how
do you unlock it? Yeah.
Like, and that's the frustration. Like, I know sometimes I can be like that,
Yeah.
you know, and I've had, I would say, some success in life. But inside of me, I know there's more, but I can't verbalize it or quantify it.
And that's probably where I would come in just trying to establish what was the belief behind you.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, okay.
Not feeling as though you.
I feel like I'm having a session right now. Okay. That's all right. That's it. Okay. It's all about me now. For the next 10 minutes of the show. Okay. Let's.
And that would be.
So it does feed on your values. It does feed on your beliefs. But also the coach and the counselor will have a series of tools, a series of techniques, a series of reports and ways of thinking that will enable you to access what it is you're doing and give you a vision of what's possible.
Right.
And depending on how you want to structure that journey, your coaching or your counseling interventions may be short, or they may be more over a longer period of time, depending on what it is you're trying to achieve.
So let's, you know, and we laughed and joked about it, but let's say, for instance, okay, I'm your client.
Right.
Okay. And I'm saying to you that, look, you know, I'm a director of a business, which I am, having success, but I know I feel like I could achieve more. I just feel like I'm playing at a certain level. And I just don't feel satisfied. That's the feeling that I've got.
Right.
Okay. So I come to you, I come into your office, or wherever it may be, swanky little place, and sit on your sofa. What kind of things would happen in that? You know, I know it's always hard because everyone's slightly different. But what would happen? So just to anyone who's thinking about this and they've got these misconceptions, and we talked about that already, what would happen? Like, say I walk into your office and I'm just giving you that. Is that enough to go off, or would there be some kind of questionnaire that I have to fill in, or some profiles, or I don't know? What do you do?
All right, so I might have a different approach to Bev. One of my first questions, we actually have a process that deals with that.
Oh, okay.
So I would be asking, what are you looking for? Are you looking for your next step within the company that you're currently with? Or are you looking for your desired future? Because these are two slightly different routes. So let's say you said, you know what, Earle, I'm looking for a desired future. Then we would start the journey of saying, okay, let's have a look at some of the things that you've done in the past. Let's have a look at, you know, some of the key things that have made you who you are today, because you've been on a leadership journey. And you will, if you imagine the game Snakes and Ladders, where you go from 0 to 100, you will encounter some ladders where you have gone up and accelerated your current career because you've gone up a few ladders. But equally, along your life's journey, you will have experienced and encountered some snakes which have brought you right back down again, right? So I don't need to know some of that stuff there. So just to find out how resilient you've been before and how prepared you are for the journey to come. In addition to that, we would look at, you know, okay, what does an ideal future look like for you? What are your leadership landmines? In other words, what might get in your way that if it happened again, it could just bring you right back down to nothing. So I would want to look at those leadership landmines and help you with coaching strategies that would enable you to overcome that. So if you did happen to encounter them, you could overcome them without too much fear. And you could get to that place, that desired place where you wanted to be.
So you ask real good questions. What I'm noticing is that what happens in these sessions is real good questioning.
Yeah, absolutely.
The better the question, the better the revelation of answers that comes out of that. Okay, so that's good. So you'd have on one side. What if I then came to you and said, okay, so you know, my coach now he's getting me to the next place, but I still feel dissatisfied. I don't feel content. Who do I go to for that?
I'll take you to church.
Yeah, come on now. Praise, that's what you need, brother. You need the ultimate counselor.
Very true.
All right.
I suppose this is where I would kind of come in and kind of figure out what it is, as we were talking about earlier. What was holding you back? What was your belief? What's gone on with you?
There's something surrounding
it's inside.
that. Right.
It's inside rather than what's on paper. Sometimes when people see what's going on in here on paper, then they go, I get it. But sometimes it's much deeper than that. And as I said, it's just getting people to come to that aha moment, to their own realization and it's not. I'm not giving them advice. It's not for me to say, "Oh, you're doing this wrong," or "You're doing that wrong." There's no right or wrong answers. I mean, if I pinch you,
don't do that. Okay,
I won't do it on this occasion. But if I pinch you, I know how much pressure I'm putting on in that pinch, and I may just pinch you like this and think, "Oh, it's nothing," but to you, that might be real pain. Yeah. So this is why I say you are the expert on you, because you know how hurt you felt.
In that situation or
whatever. In that situation. For me, it might be just like it was nothing. You know.
So once again, it's delving and asking good questions around that. I'm getting insights
your
here. Thank you.
And the package you bring into both the counselling and the coaching session is really important, because your values, your beliefs, your attitudes, your vision, your ability to be resilient is going to play a huge role in how quickly you accelerate to the next level. You might say to me, for instance, Earle, I want to become a person who sits on the board, who is a member of the leadership team, senior leadership team, but I don't think I really deserve a place on the board. You know, and there's no black people on the board, for instance. And that might spark an immediate notification in my head to say, well, is this about your ability to see past your color? Do you think you deserve a place there? So now we're talking at a deeper level, and it's important to strike a note at those levels to see that people are worth it, and that if they can't get over that more deeply held conviction about who they are and what they're capable of, if they can't see themselves being in that position of a higher place, then maybe coaching is not the way forward. Maybe more counselling is required here.
It just depends on what's going on with that person, and it depends on what's going on in their life at that time. Sometimes you may be in a role that you feel trapped, and so I'd be looking at, well, what is this trapped feeling? What is it that's making you feel?
So forget the position. What in particular?
What is it?
You know.
And you may say to someone, "Oh, I just feel trapped. I feel as if I'm in a hole. I feel as if I've got no movement. I can't move forward." You know.
That's why do you feel like that?
You know. Well, it's not even why. Because someone else may say, "Well, why do you feel like that? You shouldn't feel like that."
Right. So you're giving someone permission to have that feeling.
It's not a case of you shouldn't. I do.
Right. I get it.
That's how I feel. You know. That's what's going on with me. It's not whether it's right that I feel like that, or whether it's wrong that I feel like that, but I do feel like that.
Right. And I think it's dealing with those emotions.
Yes.
Right. I see. It can get quite deep. This can get quite deep.
It can.
Okay. So awesome. So here's the thing. How do I find then, as we start to come to a close, people have heard this and said, actually, I think I might need a coach, or I think I might need a counsellor. Where would they go? One, for yourselves, okay? Because naturally, if I think counsellor, I think doctors. You know, I wouldn't necessarily know where to go for a coach per se, potentially. I know where I went, but for those who are listening to this or watching on YouTube, where would you go for a coach? You know, actually tell them where they can go for yourself, for instance.
That's a great point. Clearly, the first port of call is probably a website. Coaching or coaches in my area, and usually, if you've got a good website, they'll direct you to coaches within your area. So, I'll give a bit of an advert. We're on www.theKairosExperience.com.
Awesome.
And we've just had our website redone by Earle. And Earle put you on a number of search engines, which Google will pick up quite quickly. So you don't even have to be specific to the Kairos Experience. You can say coaches in my area, and if you're in the area, you'll probably see our website in the rankings. So ideally, the website.
And do you have to live in? Obviously, you're based in the Midlands, but do you do telephone? Telephone coaching.
Right. So this is a great point. We do telephone coaching. We do Skype calls. We can coach remotely. I've got one guy who I'm coaching over in Germany. I've got one lady who's up in the Cheshire area, and these are remote, but sometimes they want the face-to-face. So I've got one person from Cheshire who comes down, and we have a face-to-face session here, and it's great because you can look the person in the eye, and there's a lot more of a connection actually when they're in the room face-to-face, actually experiencing the face-to-face connection with that individual. However, remote coaching is still possible. It's still good. It's still refreshing. It still opens areas. And you know what? If I feel the need, I will travel to you.
Fantastic.
I will travel to you.
So you can find you obviously on the website, and we'll make sure that we'll put the details underneath as well. So Bev, so if someone's looking for counselling and they wanting to find revelation, okay, how would they find you?
Again, you can look for counsellors in your area if you go on the counselling website, and you sometimes you get referred via your doctor or NHS or wherever.
Do you have a website that people can go to?
You can find me. You can actually find me on the Kairos Experience.
This is the thing. You don't need. She doesn't need a website.
Right. Okay.
She has the counselling directory.
That's right.
And the counselling directory. Whoever's looking for counselling goes to the directory, they see this beautiful face and they go, oh, I want her. And she then lets me know next door. She goes, oh, I've got another referral.
She's super busy. All right. So you may have to go on a waiting list.
All day long,
Okay, fantastic.
But if you go onto the counselling directory, if you go onto the counselling directory, you will see counsellors in your area, and it will list and it will tell you all about their qualifications and everything about them, and then because it's a relationship at the end of the day, and so you choose who you feel would be most comfortable with, right?
Well, fantastic. One final question as we close off, because people might say, okay, so how much does a coach usually cost? I'm not asking for your price, they can talk to you individually, but what would you say in a ballpark, like, coaches can range from? Because I'm assuming there's a big range, or maybe not. What would a business coach or a life coach range from? Are we talking about
that's a great question.
£50 an hour to £200 an hour, whatever it may be? I don't know.
It varies. It varies from £30 an hour to £30 a session. I've seen people pay up to £3,000 a session.
Right, depending on who you get. Okay.
So it's difficult to say. I mean, it depends on the type of challenge that you have. Yeah. And it also depends on the next level for you. Okay. For instance, I know people who are in senior management that will pay big bucks over a protracted period of time to get from where they are now to a completely different level, a preferred future that is, it's going to be a stretch not only for them, but for the coach to find relevant examples to help them to aspire to that new position. So it depends. It really does depend.
Is that the same? I'm assuming then the same for counselling?
It depends on the type of counselling, because there's lots of different types of counselling, and there's couples and there's relationships, and depends on what the depth. But again, it's down to the individual counsellors as well.
And the other thing, the thing that is going to make it more expensive, I would imagine, is, a coach like myself, there's a certain level that we can go to. So for instance, if the person needed something like brain surgery, that's out of my league. So I wouldn't even contemplate going to that level. But there's certain coaches that will be able to counsel and will be able to coach to that level because they've got the level of depth, experience, qualification that enables them to do that. So it depends. I mean, if you look at Fraser, Niles and Fraser, I know we're talking kind of metaphorically here, but those guys charge good money. They've got offices, they've got secretaries, and they've got qualifications that mean that they can make deep connections with anybody who comes in their office so that they can live the kind of lifestyle that they do live. So the range is there, awesome. And the qualification is important as well.
Awesome. So listen, I want to say thank you. I appreciate you guys are busy. Obviously, we'll put the details up for anyone who's looking at that. Once again, I have a business coach. I find it incredibly valuable, and I have different coaches for different things actually. So fitness and stuff like that. So I definitely recommend it. I think thank you for breaking down the stigma around counselling. Because I think I would have had that stigma. I think so many other thousands of other people probably have that stigma around counselling. And actually, it's an early prevention. It's not always when you're at the point of chaos. So listen, thank you. Please leave your comments. Tell us if you've got a counselor, a coach, what have been your benefits. Let us know what you'd like to know on the next type of Real Talk podcast, what type of people you'd like us to interview and to bring to the show. So thank you for joining us. Subscribe and share, and we will see you soon for another Real Talk podcast. Thank you.
Well done.